Test 3, no, this is section 2 of test 3, doing questions 34 to 44, finishing up the writing section. Let's see, titled, More Than One Way to Dress a Cat. From Michelangelo's David to Vincent van Gogh's series of self-portraits to Grant Wood's iconic image of a farming couple in American Gothic. These works by human artists have favored representation of members of their own species to those of other species. Alright, so we're connecting, like, the second part of the sentence is connected to the previous ones. We're talking about how these works favored human artists, like, and they just like drawing humans, they didn't like drawing animals that much, and it just brought up a couple examples. So these are not two separate ideas, and like it's not necessary to put a period in between. That's just unnecessary and kind of breaks the flow. Semicolon is inappropriate here because we don't want to break. We're connecting ideas, and that's why 34D is best. Let's read it out. From Michelangelo's David to Vincent van Gogh's series of self-portraits to Grant Wood's iconic image of a farming couple in American Gothic, works by human artists have favored representation of members of their own species to those of the other species. Like, it connects the examples pretty well to the thesis of this paragraph. Though I don't know if that's the thesis of this passage. I don't think it is. Indeed, when we think about animals depicted in well-known works of art, the image of dogs playing poker, popularized in a series of paintings by American artist C.M. Coolidge, it's definitely 35 because it started off with this. You can't end with that, or like just forget about the next hyphen or dash unless you end it with a period, but in this case it's not, so it has to be this. Like, make the connection, guys. Starts with a hyphen or a dash, you gotta end with one too. Maybe the first and only one that comes to mind. Yet some of the earliest works of art, including paintings and drawings tens of thousands of years old, found on caves wall in Spain and France, portrays animals. That's some of the, okay, portraying is weird. Like, has portrayed animals. Like, has portrayed. We're talking about millions of drawings here, and has only refers to one. So this is not appropriate. Portraying, that's just awkward and breaks the flow. Portrays animals, portrays, like, that's also referring to a singular painting, singular drawing. But here we're talking about like lots of like works of art, not a work of art. So we're talking about several works of art. So there has to be C, which properly refers to a multitude of paintings and drawings. Nor has artistic homage to our fellow creatures entirely died out in the millennia since. The writer wants to link the first paragraph with the ideas that follow. Which choice best accomplishes this goal? The next paragraph talks about the cat. Alright, so it's talking about the cat and how much he loved it. Nor has so let's find a way to connect that. Nor has artistic homage to our fellow creatures entirely died out in the millennia since. With special attention being paid to domestic animals such as cat. Okay, so this doesn't make sense. B. Yeah, this kind of, no, this one doesn't make sense either because this next paragraph, it didn't start off with the cat. It introduced the cat. It didn't start off with like, the cat is the guardian of the museum. Like, if it started off with that, then maybe 37B would have been right because it already introduces the cat in the last sentence of the previous paragraph, but as a transition point. But that's not the case here. The cat's not shown at the very beginning. Okay, even though most paintings in museums are of people, not animals, that doesn't connect the two at all. As the example of one museum in Russia shows. See, this is a proper transition point because the next sentence starts off the with the museum in Russia. So, nor has artistic homage to our fellow creatures entirely died out in the millennia since, as the example of one museum in Russia shows. The State Hermitage Museum in St. Petersburg, one of Russia's greatest art museums, has long had a productive partnership with a much loved animal, the cat. You see how like it introduces the cat here? That therefore you don't want to use the cat as a transition point in the previous paragraph. Think of it like a small spoiler. For centuries, cats have guarded this famous museum, ridding it of mice, rats, and other rodents that could damage the art, not to mention scare off visitors. Um, because, like, even though cats have scared off, even though cats have hunted down rats in the past, we're talking about the actions of rats, rodents, and rats in the present tense. As you can see here, could damage the art. So therefore, this one has to be also a present tense word. So scared and half scared is not right. Scaring breaks the flow, and scared off it doesn't is also past tense, so it has to be C. Peter the Great introduced the first cat to the Hermitage in the early was it Hermitage in the early 18th century. Later, Catherine the Great declared the cats to be the official guardians of the galleries. Continuing the tradition, Peter's daughter Elizaveta introduced the best and strongest cats in Russia to the Hermitage. That's a weird way to go with the flow. I mean, like it's a tradition, and then there are official guardians. I think that should be the flow. But here it's declaring them as official guardians, and then it's saying continuing the tradition. That doesn't really make sense. But let's see. Today, the museum holds a yearly festival honoring these faithful workers. To make this paragraph most logical, sentence 5 should be placed. Right, we just talked about this. It should be placed right after 3. Peter the Great introduced the first cat to the Hermitage in the earliest 18th century. Continuing the tradition, Peter's daughter Elizaveta introduced the best and strongest cats in Russia to the Hermitage. Later, Catherine the Great declared the cats to be the official guardians of the galleries. Guardians of the galleries. That makes sense. And oftentimes, if you want to read these passages, even though it's just the writing section, you want to read through these passages thoroughly. And so you might be able to find this kind of off-putting sentence early on. So later on, when you're given a question like this, you'll be able to answer pretty fast. Like, you don't want to just haphazardly read through this and then later figure out which one fits, right? If you're really understanding the passage as you read it, then you should be able to spot the break of flow early on. These cats are so cherished by the museum that officials have recently decreed original paintings to be made of 6 of them. Decreed is not the right word. Commissioned, yes, like they're hiring an artist, they're commissioning an artist. Forced or licensed, these are all not proper words. Forced, like they're not forcing an artist. Licensing an artist sounds a bit like, that sounds too weird. So 40 is B. In each, a cat is depicted in upright in a human-like position and clothed in imperial era Russian attire. The person chosen for this task, digital artist Elder Zakharov, painted the cats in the style traditionally used by portrait artists. Okay, there should not be a comma here. It should just be the person chosen for this task, digital artist Elder Zakharov, not digital artist Elder Zakharov. That breaks the flow and completely unnecessary. So it's not this. There should be a comma here, so it's D. Because we're introducing new information, and that has to be separated by commas. Painted the cat in the style traditionally used by portrait artists, In so doing, um, presenting the cats as individuals worthy of respect. Um, okay, let's see. Yeah, that makes sense. Managing to capture. Okay, which choice most effectively sets up examples that follow? One portrait, the Hermitage Court Chamber Herald Cat, includes an aristocratic tilt of feline ears as well as stately sweep of tail emerging from the stiff scarlet and gold of royal coat. So we're talking about like how noble these cats are. Like we're not trying to capture any unique characteristics of the cat, so it's not B. It's not commenting. The next sentence is not commenting on the absurdity of dressing up cats. It's respecting it, indicating that cats were talented mouse catchers. We're talking about dressing up cats in royal court dresses and robes. So we're not talking about catching. We're not talking about how talented they are. So it's not D either. So A makes sense because we're talking about cats and dressing them up as noble beings. The wise, thoughtful green eyes of the subject of the Hermitage court outrun a cat, mimic those of a trusted royal advisor. At this point, the writer is considering adding the following sentence. The museum occupies 6 historic buildings, including the Winter Palace, a former residence of Russian emperors. Should the writer make this addition here? Alright, let's read what the sentence after. Some may find it peculiar to observe cats portrayed in formal court poses, but these felines, by mastering the art of killing mice and rats, are benefactors to the museum as important as any human. Alright, yeah, this is just irrelevant information. We don't need it. So, definitely not to know because it also can indicate why the winter. No, because it provides background information that is irrelevant to the paragraph. But these felines, by mastering the art of killing mice and rats, are benefactors to the museum as importantly as they are human. Acting as a lead predator in the museum's ecosystem. Now that's a bit. Hunting down and killing all mice and rats one by one. That's a bit brutal. I mean, unnecessarily, on one by one. There's no need to say that. Mastering the art of killing mice and rats. There's contrast between that and protecting the museum's priceless artworks from destructive rodents. See, this is a very good one because it talks about how, like here it says, but these felines, by mastering the art of killing mice and rats, are benefactors of the museum as important as any human. Like, how is killing, like, it's not saying what killing the mice and rats does. Like, they're just saying, okay, they're killing mice and rats, therefore they're benefactors to the museum. But why? And that's why 44A is not the answer, because they're not giving a reason for why they're benefactors. But here in 44D it says protecting the museum's art, priceless works. So they're killing mice and rodents and thus protecting the museum's priceless works. And that's how they're the benefactors of the museum. So therefore it's 44D.